Hi positive readers, this is Positive Writer. Today was another video. Today I'm going to be doing a book chat, which I have not done in months. But this book chat is going to be for Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Robinson. I love this book so much. I just put out a video talking about how much I hate YA fantasy, and then I finished this book and suddenly it has rights. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into this book after telling you what it's about and my overall feelings, non-spoiler. I'm going to get into the amazing notes I have because I have way too many because it was just that good. So first things first, I love this book, 5 stars for sure. It's unique. It's so fantasy. If you just love fantasy books with fantasy elements, but are also YA and cute and romancy a little bit, but it does not overshadow the fantasy, read this book, please. It's unique. The representation is amazing. It's great. I love this book so much. It was beautiful, and I recommend it to everybody who loves YA fantasy, honestly. What a well-rounded novel. I really enjoyed it. It has demons, books that come to life, freaking everything you could want from a fantasy book it basically has, so I definitely recommend picking it up. Regardless of anything else, just read it. So, this book is about a girl named Elizabeth, and she has grown up in the library. She is an orphan child, so they basically picked her up off the street, basically, and put her in this library. So she's been raised with these library people and with these books that are called grimoires that basically come alive if they are not treated correctly or whatever. Yeah, it's a very fantasy world. It's super fantasy, like high fantasy. Books come alive. That's not something I've ever read about. So definitely, if you love fantasy, it's amazing. And basically, as she exists in this library, one day, this grimoire that she learned about, probably like a couple pages ago, that's like this really powerful grimoire, this level 10, meaning that it's like really powerful, and if it turns into a, I forgot what they call them, not monsters that they turn into, but they turn into these gigantic monsters, and they will like kill people and stuff if they're not treated to correctly. So this grimoire is not to be played with, because if it turns into one of these, you're probably going to die. So one day she wakes up at the middle of the night, everybody else is asleep. She walks through and goes into the library, which should be locked and guarded, but which is not locked and guarded. And then she finds the director that took her in and that believed in her and everything dead. And this grimoire has come to life. This grimoire called the Book of Eyes, that is just powerful AF, has come to life and is a monster and is out to kill the town. So please read this. It is amazing. It has kind of low-key a found family. The world building is beautiful. The characters are beautiful. She's taller than her love interest. If that means anything to you, I know damn well it did to me. The characters are unique. The romance is great. The banter is great. It's hilarious. It's so fantasy. The romance does not ever overshadow the fantasy. This is a YA fantasy book. Okay, I don't know what those other books were that I was ranting about. This is a YA fantasy book. 5 stars out the back. Please read this. Without further ado, I want to start talking about this because I can feel this is going to be long because I have so many notes. So, the first thing that I have here is that the Magister happened to be young. This is actually one of my favorite tropes because basically she just kind of living in the library and existing and stuff. But one day, this person that they have rumors about forever is called the Magister. And she and her friend get to see a glimpse of this man because they're like spying on him because there are rumors he has like pointed ears and he's this, he can do all this stuff, turn people into, whatever. He's basically like supposed to be this evil old person. And turns out he's really just some guy that's like her age. So, that's one of my favorite tropes when they make somebody who's rumored to be very old or talked about as if they're very old, but they end up just being a normal, like, kid, teen, whatever. I love it. I don't know what it is. I really enjoy that trope. But anyway, yeah. And I basically just all that. The main character is spying on this Magister guy because they're basically behind a bookshelf, kind of like looking at him, and then she does something and ends up toppling the bookshelf over, and she falls, and the bookshelf falls, and then the Magister is just looking at her like, what the F? And so he helps her up and stuff, and she's kind of a little bit wary about him touching her and stuff because he's supposed to be this guy who's really evil and stuff, but the fact that he's young kind of throws her off. And then she stands up. Elizabeth stands up, and she is taller than this Magister guy who was her age. I cannot tell you how happy I was to find this out. I cannot tell you how happy I was. I have probably almost never been happier to see something happen in a book that's that minor because it was just like a freaking breath of fresh air. You know how many times I've read, no, not you know how many times, every single YA book I've ever read, the girl is always shorter than the love interest. And I know this guy, the Magister, was not really a love interest at this point, but I knew he probably was going to be. So I was just like so baffled. Margaret Robinson, you are a queen. Like, you're gonna mess around and be my favorite author in a second. I'm gonna have to read all her other books. I feel like she is just top tier YA content. Like, I don't know, like the other authors could never. Nathaniel, which is the name of the Magister, basically he talks to her a little bit and they have this cute little banter thing going on or whatever. And somebody ends up calling him because he has duties or whatever. He's like a respected person or whatever in this library. And so then he leaves and he does not tell on her, say that she's there and she's knocking over bookshelves. He doesn't tell on her, but he leaves. And then and I said that he has to marry, and then the guest at after Carver found out that she is. So he lets her leave and does not do anything to her and stuff, and it's all good. So basically that's kind of the first half of the book is all I had the notes for, because the rest of my notes are all from the end. But I'm basically just gonna kind of recap what happened because I do remember for sure. So after this happens, then what happened, what I told you earlier about the director, how her findings about the director is dead, and this grimoire is here trying to kill people. So she ends up killing the grimoire. She saves the town, but then there's a rumor or whatever that has been started that she is the reason that this thing turned into a monster and killed a whole bunch of people. So they're calling her the perpetrator of this crime, and they're going to take her to Ashcroft Manor, which is kind of like this prison or whatever. It's supposed to be this prison because she is rumored to be somebody who has caused a whole bunch of people to die almost. Yeah, so Nathaniel is the one who was the Magister, is going to take her to this place. He is tasked with taking her from her place at the library that she starts off at and going to take her to Ashcroft Manor. So she gets inside this carriage and stuff, and they're just going on this journey alongside this other guy who is a demon, who is clear that he's a demon, but he's muddling with her mind to make her think he's not a demon because he doesn't want her to know, or for whatever reason, which you find out later. Yeah, so his name is Silas, and he's kind of like the servant or whatever, and he's going to help them. So they all go, and they're going to Ashcroft Manor. They stop a couple times, she tries to run away, jumps back, because demon magic is like way too powerful, she can't get away. Along the way, she reads a book, and she has like a book with her that's like a grimoire, and it's teaching her about demon stuff and stuff like this. She like talks to the books, and they like respond to her, not with words, but they're like with their pages and stuff. And I think this book is amazing. The fantasy aspect of it, the magicalness of this book, it was breathtaking. So they're on their way. She tries to run away once, doesn't work. They end up at like an inn, and like nothing weird happens, which was concerning, but like something kind of weird happened. I mean, this is not even on my notes, but I just enjoy talking about this book, so I'm just kind of gonna go along the line of what I remember. Basically, she was in the room, and then he brought her some food, and he was like half dressed or something, and then she was like, wow, you know, like, what the hell? Like, she was half dressed too. It was just, they have so many awkward, her and Nathaniel have so many awkward and really cute scenes. I love them. Yeah, and Silas is like kind of just like the presence is always there to help to take her back or whatever if she tries to run, which she does try again and gets taken back to her room, which she never remembers because Silas is making her not remember. They end up stopping at his mansion or whatever. I'm pretty sure this is the time where they stop at the mansion. And then they end up continuing to Ashcroft Manor. Along this way now, they meet another grimoire that has turned into a monster from another library. And so they have to kill it. And her and Nathaniel, they help, they kill it. The townspeople are very grateful and stuff. And it's just like a big thing. And then it turns out when she arrives at Ashcroft Manor, eventually, they now see her as a complete hero. So she does not have to come and be a prisoner anymore, which is great. So Nathaniel ends up having to leave though, because turns out the Chancellor is like, she was just supposed to transfer her there, and that's it. Now she has to go back to his home or whatever. It's clear that he does not want to leave, but he does. And then she just kind of has to exist with all these people and go to these parties and stuff that the Chancellor is throwing. So at one of these parties, they're all at the table talking about how Nathaniel has to marry, and they're like having, you know, their little side gossip or whatever about how he's never seen with a girl. He's this, and turns out they find out that Nathaniel and her, Elizabeth, are on a first name basis, and they start flipping their shit. They're like, oh my god, like what? And then they start, you know, everybody turns to look at her. It was hilarious. I love the scene. It was really funny. Yeah, it's like because, you know, they want T as far as who's gonna marry, because he's the last person in his family line that's alive to take up whatever he has to take up, and yeah, they're like really concerned about this. So this is the thing. The Chancellor has a demonic wife who is a demon, and just like Silas, she can like influence her and stuff because she's only a human being. And so one of these days, she's like going somewhere. The wife is playing some music, and then she sees Elizabeth, and then takes her with her, or whatever. And the next day, like kind of just talks to her or something. The next day, she compels her into coming to the Chancellor's office, where she kind of just like takes her there. And turns out, for like weeks on end now, they've been interrogating her about what happened in the library where the director died and all that stuff, because they want to know what happened. She's no longer a prisoner, we thought, but he still wants to know why, like what she saw. So during these sessions and stuff, he ends up feeling like this is like not gonna work, because she doesn't end up yielding any information because she can resist somehow the wife's magic. So then she's kind of just laying on the floor or whatever, and she finds this really like I don't know what you call it, like it's really old and really I forgot the words that they would describe the grimoire, but basically he's been reading the grimoire, and one time they leave the room and she goes and looks at it, and it's like a really old one that has some really big like spells and stuff in it. Sorcery, you know, these are sorcerer people, so they're looking through these books to find out spells or whatever, and she makes a note to grab the book. I don't remember if she grabs it right then, but she definitely gets it later on. So they come back and they end up staging like she had a great fall or something. So now she's on bed rest for a while. While she's on bed rest, the physician comes and figures out, you know, she's trying to figure out whether she's mentally insane or not, and she's like begging the physician, who literally is hired by the Chancellor to help her stop the Chancellor, telling him about how she figured out that he is the reason why these libraries have been why the grimoires have been being attacked, why the director dies. He's the perpetrator and not her, like they thought. So she figures this out, and then she tells the physician everything. She's like, oh my god, like he's the reason he's this, please help me. And the physician is like, you're definitely insane, definitely send her to a mental institution, which is just what Chancellor wanted, because the Chancellor wants to discredit her mental stability so that everybody around her sees her going crazy, and discredits when she tells them that he is the reason why all this bad stuff is happening. So she makes a mistake of doing that, and then basically the Chancellor watches her and stuff for the rest of the days, for like a while, and then this random day he's like, I'm done with this, I want to know what happened, so I'm just going to force it out of you. So he goes into her mind, he uses magic to go into her mind and like sift through her memories to figure out what she saw. And it reminded me of Red Queen, the whispers in Red Queen, and I literally was dying, I was having heart attacks. It was not the move, I was not happy about that. Definitely did not want for that, but it's fine. So he's looking through her memories, and she actually has the willpower to send forth a memory that did not happen, but that she wished happened, of saying goodbye to the director, and he's like, trash, like I don't need this memory, and kind of just falls on the ground and shatters, and she loses it. So it was really sad. I was sad, but yeah, he does not find anything worth anything. So after this, she is going to be transported to this mental hospital, because they're like, you're insane, and the point is to subdue her so she's not out and about to stop him. And she's also now insane, so no one will believe her when she tries to solicit help. So she's on her way to this place. They get there, she ends up running, and she gets away because one of the girls that are like a servant or something, because one of the butlers from Ashcroft is now like trying to find her and stuff. He turns into a demon himself, and when he is a demon, so he turns into like a fiend himself, and like he's going to go find her and stuff. And he can't, because the servant girl helps him, and then they get out of the place, and now, you know, she's home free basically. But she does not have anywhere to go. She lives on the street for several days before she is taken back to Nathaniel, if you remembered him from before. I haven't talked about him that much, but the rest of the book is definitely full of him. Basically, she gets taken back to Nathaniel's mansion, whatever, by Silas, because Silas finds her on the side of the road. And Silas is very perceptive. He's a demon, so he like knows things and can see things, and can teleport and shapeshift and stuff. So, you know, he's fine. So he takes her back, and Nathaniel's mad about it at first, because he's like, there's some reason why he does not want her there. We already can tell that he cares about her and likes her, but he doesn't say anything about it. She doesn't say anything about it. But they have so many moments of tension in this book, and it keeps getting better as it continues. So you're going to be hearing about a lot of that too. So you're going to be hearing a lot about that too. So she's staying at the manor, and this is when stuff really starts to get kind of really interesting and also really cute between them because they're together all the time. So after her fever breaks, she needs to figure out how to stop the Chancellor from hitting the rest of these libraries and doing whatever his end game is, because it's not obviously good. So she needs some books for that. And basically, before the books and stuff she goes to find that are in his study, she tells them how they need to fight and they need to like stop the Chancellor from doing this stuff and from killing all these, like basically ended up killing all these people, because he's obviously continuing to do things and he will continue to unless somebody stops him. And Nathaniel's like, I'm not gonna help you get yourself killed because I'm just not gonna help you. And so they're kind of having an argument about this, and then this quote popped up and I loved it. This little line here. Fury surged through Elizabeth. It swelled in her heart and crackled over her skin, fizzed up the roots of her hair. She advanced on Nathaniel until their noses almost touched. This is nothing. This is better than doing nothing. That's hot. I thought it was really hot. I love Elizabeth. She's amazing. She gets better as the book continues, and she starts off amazing. So I love her, and I just thought the scene was very, very nice. So basically, Elizabeth was in Nathaniel's study to get some books to help her figure out like how to stop the Chancellor, and she asked him for some books, and he told her he wouldn't help. He refused to help her get herself killed basically by getting these books and trying to stop this guy who's literally so powerful he could kill like everybody. So then she started acting like she was gonna break stuff in the room that clearly was valuable to him, and then she was like, oh, I'll just do this. I'll just knock this over or whatever. And he was like, okay, okay, I'll let you take the freaking books, like you can have the books. It was just really funny. And then he turned around and acted like he was reading, and like the paper was upside down. So he was acting like he was completely unbothered by this, but it was so fake and it was hilarious. His attempt was just ridiculous. And I said the book is so fantasy because they have this end goal to stop the Chancellor from destroying libraries and killing all his people. And they do stuff to get to the goal. It's constant planning, constant figuring out how to do this in the best way, stuff like that. And like it's so good. It's so interesting, and it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you interested in the characters, the plot, and even the romance. Even though the romance is not a gigantic part of the story, I love this book so much. So it makes sense because the fact that this book is so interesting, it makes the scenes that Nathaniel and Elizabeth do end up having, it makes the scenes all the more satisfying and beautiful. Yeah. So basically, they are continuing to plan and stuff. They get Catrian involved, her friend from the first library. They get her involved in this plot to basically figure out how to kill and stop the Chancellor. So they're basically doing this, and along the way there's a ball or something that Nathaniel has been getting ready for and creating stuff for and stuff that's at Ashcroft Manor. At first they're like, we can't go and find him. This is like illegal. We can't do it. And they end up going actually inside of this book. They end up going inside of this book that Ashcroft had because they end up getting possession of it. Because there are so many plots in this book, and I don't want to like explain every single one, but I have a compilation. I feel like I need to because it's just that good. But long story short, she ends up going to work at a library to find the same grimoire that the Ashcroft Manor Chancellor had, and basically she finds the book, she gets the book, and she's able to go inside the book, and it turns out it's so powerful and so rare or whatever because somebody's living inside of it, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about this, I'm not sure. But anyway, yes, he's inside of the book, and so he is the key that Chancellor needs to carry out the rest of his plans. And he tells all this to her, but he will not talk about the plan and tell them anything. So, she comes out of the book, and that's just that. So, this ball at Ashcroft Manor that they're all getting ready for, they decide that this is the perfect time to strike because they know everything about the book and everything, and they're going to expose him in front of all the people who support him at this ball. So, they go to the ball, everything's normal or whatever, everybody's kind of side-eyeing Elizabeth because she's supposed to be insane or at the asylum or whatever, but she's clearly not. So they go there, and then Silas is there, he's going to help them and stuff, he's like in the back, because he kind of, every single time they go do something, throughout the entire book, he's kind of just that person, that demon who helps them and looks out for them, makes sure they're okay, if they need some help or whatever, he helps as much as he can. He's just like that person because he's a demon, and he is tasked with helping Nathaniel. He's a servant, so now he's tasked with helping Elizabeth. So they go to this ball, and Nathaniel and Elizabeth, they're together and stuff, and they go out on this terrace or something, and like a balcony type thing, and they're about to kiss, and then they're talking and stuff and reminiscing about how he used to take his family, who was all dead sadly. Now he takes her there, and they're talking about it and stuff, and they're about to kiss, and then turns out somebody controlled Nathaniel, like mind controlled Nathaniel into taking her there, because now the Chancellor and Lorelai, his wife, that is a demon, is outside now, and they're going to stop them. They're going to kill them, basically. And so there's this big, what I call the climax, even though it's kind of not the climax, I call it the climax because it was just gigantic fight scene between all of them, and she has her sword, and she's slicing, and Nathaniel has his sorcery, and they're going against the other, and she's fighting the wife while he's fighting, and he basically, the thing that gets him to fight is the fact that he now has Silas in his possession. He's hurting him, he has been stabbed, I'm pretty sure, with some iron, so he cannot fight back, and so he's going to trade Silas for Elizabeth, and they're like, nah, bad chance. So they start fighting. And this fight's going on, it's insane, and he is about to kill Nathaniel. The Chancellor is like a second away from stabbing him, and then Silas appears right there and gets stabbed instead. He sacrifices himself. So, Silas, throughout the whole book, he has been, obviously, the demon, so he's made it clear that he can't care about people, he doesn't care about anybody, he doesn't feel any attraction to human beings or anything. He's just a demon, he's just there to serve his master, aka Nathaniel. But then he sacrifices himself in this scene, and it's clear to Elizabeth and to me that the look on his face and the way that he did it is like, he did it because he cared about him. So, because we know it was a selfless act of him, because he could have let him die. If he had let Nathaniel die, he would have gotten to eat his soul and stuff right then, instead of having to wait for him to die of old age or natural causes or whatever. But instead, he sacrificed himself. That is clear to me that despite his stuff, he's talking about how he's a demon and can't care about things. It's clear to me that he cares about Nathaniel a lot, and he did not want him to die enough that he sacrificed himself. And that was just like, it really touched me. I think I love the trope where a character is really hard or really tough, or like they put on this persona of being super uncaring or whatever, but it turns out they're really just softies. I love that. But yeah, and at the same time, she did kill his wife, aka the demon, who basically made him into a sorcerer, and made his powers and stuff as magnitude, as large as they were. And basically, he now is just a normal man. So like, we can kill him now. But it's like, could we kill him because he starts to run? They're like, should we kill him? Elizabeth is warring with herself over killing him, and then trying to save Nathaniel because he was about to die. Because he was only on the ground and stuff because he was about to die. So he already is hurt, even though he did not die for real, because Silas sacrificed himself. So she goes and she chooses to save Nathaniel, and they help him and nurse him back to health and stuff. All the while, Silas, of course, is not there because Silas sacrificed himself. So they go back to the manor and nurse him back to health and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure they get him back because I know they get him back, but I'm pretty sure it happens before this next note that I have. So they have this ritual to get him back where they go into this room where his dad was going to try and conjure up his late mother and brother, but failed. And basically they go into the circle, they make a, I think it's called a pentagram, and then they summon him by his true name, so Silatharus or something like that. So they conjure him up, and he's like in demon form. He's not in normal human form where he's like nice and personable and beautiful or whatever. He is in demon form, so he wants to eat. He's like, I want a soul, I'm hungry or whatever. Give me more years. And so Elizabeth takes 10 years that would have been Daniel's to give. She takes the 10 years off of her life to bring Silas back. And it was really cute. I love the trio they have going, and they continue to be cute for the rest of the novel. So you'll be hearing a lot about them more. So they do that, and then he comes back, and he's like, dang, I've left 2 hours, and the house is already in disarray because they had to bring new servants and stuff to help Nathaniel. It was so funny, and I love Silas' little comments and stuff. He's a great, like, side character. I love him. But yeah, and then so he's kind of still, Nathaniel's kind of still bedridden, but Elizabeth goes to see him one day, and then he gets out of the bed, and they're kind of just looking out the window, and they end up kissing and stuff, and it was a great scene. Normally I'd be like so over it and rolling my eyes and annoyed, but it was beautiful because it was slow burned, and then they ended up getting interrupted again. I was really excited for it to happen. I was like, this is it, I'm so excited. And one of the quotes was, she was telling him how she fought the Book of Eyes, which was the first grimoire that died, or that got killed by her. in a nightgown, and he said, in that case, I don't stand a chance. It was just like, I love their banter. They're amazing. I love them individually and together. I think they're amazing. But yeah, then Silas kind of like came in and kind of interrupted them, and it was just like, I love them. They're like the best of friends. And I said I love the banter between Silas, Nathaniel, and Elizabeth, because they play off each other so well, and I just really love it. I love the dynamic. But yeah, and he gets nursed back to health. So now their big thing is we need to stop him from hitting this last library. So they finally get help from the guy in the book, and he gives them a charm that lets them transport themselves basically anywhere by the use of magic. So he gives it to them, and they transport themselves to this library. And they go to the library, and this guy is like, they're trying to tell him Ashcroft is coming, and not Ashcroft, his name is Ashcroft, I'm so stupid because Ashcroft Manor. So they're like, Ashcroft is coming, like he's coming, you have to help, and you have to get ready, he's going to hit your library, blah, 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 blah. But he ends up putting them in the dungeon because they do something probably illegal, and they get put in the dungeon, her and Nathaniel. But Silas is still out. He comes and he rescues them, and they all hug him, and it was so cute because he was kind of just standing there like, because he's a demon. He's like, I don't really know human affection, but they all hug, and it was just the cutest thing. And he would never speak of that again. Like after it's over, I love them so much. Anyway, after this, we find out that Ashcroft is masking as the director. He is already dead. The director, well, he's not dead. He's inside of his body, and basically that's how he's been able to kill all of these, to start these grimoires and set them free and kill all these people, because he has been putting himself inside of these directors, every single one, because then he lets the grimoires free, and everything's free reign, and then he lets them deal with it and get killed by the grimoire that he just set free. So that's what he's doing. He's inside of the body, and they try and fight him a little bit because they're trying to get to this really like chapter 8 or level 10 grimoire or whatever, to try and stop him from releasing it, because if he does that, that's basically it. So she figured out a way to help, and this was a quote that happened. She said she was beginning to understand that evil wasn't so simply a concept as she had once imagined. And I love that quote because I love anything where characters or anybody just decides and realizes that good and evil are two things, but there's such a gray area between that, and it's not as simple as just good and evil. I love that, because I have been going through that a lot recently, and just from reading and watching stuff, it really has been a thing of just, wow, like evil is really relative and good is too. Anyway, so yeah, she figured out that she needs help to fight these things, and she's gonna get it. So she's gonna set all of these grimoires free, not the evil ones, but the ones that have been trapped inside this library for all this time, and they're gonna help. So she set them all free, and they start just running their books, but they start like flying at this army of fiends that Ashcroft has released to help bring the library down, while he gets the demon lord from the demon world or whatever to stop and kill everybody or whatever. And he really believes that he's doing the right thing, which is also another thing that she probably figured out. He really believes that his family was tasked with bringing this demon back and setting it free or whatever, which is obviously a lie. But yeah, so these demons in these books are fighting and stuff, and they keep sacrificing themselves because the demon's about to come out. And the rest of the book's kind of a blur because it's kind of like one of those fight scenes, which is amazing. But there's a twist around every corner in this book, and I loved it very much. And this fight scene happened because the books and the fiends were fighting, and while Ashcroft was getting this demon, and he already set them free, he couldn't talk to him because he said that if he had heard his voice, he would die. Silas, who knows everything about the demons because he is a demon, is basically telling them all this, and then Silas ends up having to turn back. She said, I don't even remember how much stuff happened in the scene. Nathaniel gets hurt really bad, and then she figures out that she's a true child of the library, because she was raised in it, so she basically is immune to certain things because she's a child of the library. So yeah, and that's the reason why the books answered to her and helped. So she's like, we have to stop this because the books are giving their lives. This is not the moves. So Nathaniel gets hurt. She's like immobile or something, and she sets Silas free from his hold of being a normal demon servant and to just being his full form or whatever. So he's doing this, and he fights this demon lord, and he cannot kill him, but he can send him back to his demon world. So that's what he does, and it's this scene, and I remember the scene, I should have put it on here, I hate myself, but Silas basically is a demon, you already know, but he could have killed everybody and like, you know, whatever. He could have turned around and killed Nathaniel and Elizabeth, but instead he turned towards the demon and, you know, and he said something about him stepping to a light. It was just beautiful. Please read the book. I'm glad I'm kind of vague about all this stuff because you should read it and read it for yourself. It was amazing. But yeah, and he sends him back to the demon world and the whole thing collapses and everything turns black. Pretty sure it's the epilogue after that, and basically, Elizabeth was able to teleport with Nathaniel right before the library collapsed on them, and they teleported back to this random place with a tea party, and the ladies are having a tea party and stuff, and then they just appear right there, and then Nathaniel like starts walking inside and says, "Excuse me, ladies," and just fell face first because he was too hurt to like walk or do anything. And it was just a really funny scene. That's the last note I have. But the book ends with everything is kind of back where it's supposed to be because the demon's back in his world. Silas is gone, which is sad and stuff, and they basically are rebuilding stuff, and she's figuring out that she does not want to be a warden anymore. She wants to set the libraries free and just kind of be more in tune with them and stuff because she's still figuring out what she wants to do in her life now that all this stuff has happened. And it ends at the very end. It basically is her bringing Silas back because at first she was like, she kept calling him by Silas, whatever his name is, and he wouldn't work. He would not conjure up. So she was like, "What is it?" And she figured it out because the last act that he did before he left, taking the demon with him and not killing anybody else, basically was an act of Silas and not his true form, because we figure out he's obviously not only just this stolen heart cold demon. So she calls him Silas instead, and then he pops up, and well, it says the candles all went out that were around the pentagram to bring him back, and but that's pretty much saying that he's gonna be back. And I hope there's more to this book. I'm pretty sure it's duology. I have not done any research because I'm a clown, but I hope there's more to this. I love these characters. I love this story. The trio between Nathaniel, Silas, and Elizabeth. I low-key want them to go polyamorous or something. I love them that much. I love this book. I hope you enjoyed this book chat. It's been way too long, so I'm gonna go. But I hope you enjoyed this book. I hope you enjoyed my talking about this book, and I hope you read it if you have not yet and watched this far into the video. I'll see you guys later with another video. Bye.